Hello and welcome back to another session on spectrum. We'll complete the poem today. So we stopped with the second last stanza of the poem. Now we are to take the last stanza. Again, the last stanza is the poem circle back once more to give us the final variation on the form fugue, right? We get the same bit about black milk as before, as in the other stanzas, but this time Celan he gives a small variation, and that is, we drink you at noon, death comes as a master from Germany. So instead of saying we drink you at noon, at night, we drink you, or we drink it. That stanza changes. See that? We drink you at noon, death comes as a master from Germany. So that's how Celan brings it here. So the poem is beginning to fragment and split apart, right? Like, say, you have all been to a merry-go-round, right? You have all sat in that merry-go-round. What happens when the merry-go-round goes out of control? It splits, it breaks, it falls. So just like that, here also if you look at the poem, it's like a merry-go-round out of control. So it comes back again, but it splits apart. So each time the form introduces, slowly it gives you the same things, the same fragment, but with small differences, and finally when you have the poem, the same thing comes again with a difference. So it's like a merry-go-round that breaks and it falls, okay? And that shows the mood of the poet, that shows the anxiety that death could actually bring to one person. So it brings in all the effect of a death song, which reminds everyone of the horrors of war, horrors of death, horrors of what one will have to go through when he or she is dead, especially when it is a violent death. So, black milk of daybreak, we drink you at night. We drink you at noon, death comes as a master from Germany. We drink you at nightfall, and morning we drink you and drink you. A master from Germany, death comes with eyes that are blue. With a bullet of lead, he will hit in the mark, he will hit you. A man in the house, your golden hair, Margaret. He hunts us down with his dogs in the sky, he gives us a grave. He plays with the serpents and dreams, death comes as a master from Germany. So see how it splits apart. Earlier it was like the same similar one, but again the form is similar, but the words are now different. That's why I said it's like a merry-go-round that goes out of control and that splits apart. So he says that there is death in the eyes, in these blue eyes that you see. We drink you at noon, death comes as a master from Germany. So it's a master, it's coming as a master from Germany. I told you in the other video about how this word can be interpreted. Here and it comes again, and this time it has a similar interpretation, but again with a more deeper sense. It also interprets, or it also gives a meaning that death comes as a relief to you. It is here to relieve you from your pain. Death comes as a master. So here the guard can be taken again as that the grim reaper with the scythe. It can also be a reference to the to Richard Wagner, the famous opera or the famous composer, music composer, and also who was the favorite of Hitler. It also is a reference to, death is, Germany is a master to you, and this master is going to grant you freedom by executing you all. That's another meaning, again pre-imposed here. So then look at the next line. A master from Germany, death comes with eyes that are blue. So death comes with eyes that are blue is a reference to whom? The Nazis. The Nazi people, their eyes are blue, the Aryan race. It is a reference to the Aryan race, which again is a reference to whom? Which again is a reference to this Nazi regime, or the Nazi people, Hitler and the Aryan race. So death, these Aryan race, that is these ones with the eyes that are blue, the guard with his eyes that are blue, which again stands for Hitler, which stands for the Aryan supreme race as such. They are the masters of Germany, and these masters are going to grant these Jews what? A relief, freedom from all the worries and woes of their life. They're going to be executed, they're going to be killed, so that they will be rid of all the pain and misery in this world, because they are unwelcome, because they are impure, they do not belong to the class. It is always advisable, or it is better that they die. And therefore death comes as a master from Germany, the blue-eyed master from Germany, the Nazis, the Aryan race. Now look at the next one. With a bullet of lead, he will hit in the mark, he will hit you. So he shoots you with shot made of lead. So shoots you means, see, during those times they were, that's called the death march. There's another thing called the death march. I did send you a video. I hope you have seen that video. There's something called death march. Now in this death march, death rally or death march, what these Jews are made to do is, they are made to walk at a distance, long distance. They have to walk, keep walking. And they have to walk fast, and these Nazis would shoot at anyone if they feel they are not walking fast, or if they feel they just want to shoot somebody, they'll just shoot. There is no motive at all. It is they don't have any motive. They don't like the Jews, and therefore anybody can be targeted. And if you are slow, if you slow down, if you fall, you're dead. Okay, that's the death march. Now here it is a reference to that. They will shoot you. So the death's eyes is blue, and so are the guard's eyes. So the guard, he begins to execute some, or maybe even all of those Jews. He shoots them with what? He shoots them with his lead bullets. So here, though we are speaking about the guards with the blue eyes, and he is going to execute all these people in this concentration camp, they are all Jews. It is also a reference to these death marches that were prevalent during the Holocaust time. So someone, that is maybe the guard himself, ironically praises the guard's marksmanship. He does not miss out any shoot. With a bullet of lead, he will hit in the mark. He is very good at shooting. So it's like praising his, his skill at shooting, or he's being praised of his skill, and he will hit you, and it's sure that his bullets will reach the target. So the Nazis cared much more about skill and efficiency. Here shooting is an example. They it is said so that they did this skill, they used the skill of shooting with efficiency, and it is in fact very devastating, right? They were very proud of these violent tactics or violent techniques, and they were proud of these violent techniques, very inhuman things, but they were proud of it. They felt that it was something great, and efficiency in shooting and killing people, that was something hailed as something great. Again the poem repeats the same thing, your golden hair Margaret, a man in the house, your golden hair Margaret. The poem is full of violence and death at the end. You have terrible violence and terrible death, and finally as we move on, the guard has finally loosened those dogs, and either the dogs will kill them, or they will be hunted down by the dogs, or they will be shot by the guard. So it's full of violence and death at the end. And the speaker notes ironically that they are granted, he hunts us down with his dogs in the sky. He gives us a grave. So the speaker, whoever the speaker is, definitely a Jew who is speaking about how their difficulties. The speaker here is the Jew, because we is a reference to the whole Jew community who had to face all these troubles, or who had to go through this hellish life. So this the speaker ironically notes that he is granting, or he is giving them a grave in the air. So giving again is has a positive connotation, or it usually has a positive connotation, something you give. He gives us a grave. So he gives us a grave is it's like a formal request, and when your request is being granted, he is giving us a grave. He is very kind enough to give us a grave. It's as if the guard thought he was doing something, he was doing a favor to these Jews by giving them death, by granting them death. Okay, and again he plays with his serpents and dreams. Death comes as a master from Germany. So he hunts us down with dogs in the sky, he gives us a grave. So again the sky comes there, again the crematorium comes, again the burned bodies, and the different ways of how Jews were shot or Jews were killed is brought before you. One is the death march, which is pure history, the death march, and they will be shot. Or another one is they'll be hunted down by dogs, these ferocious dogs, or they'll be just shot by the guard standing there. There were different ways in which they were tortured and killed by the Nazis. So all this cruelty, all this violence is brought before you. And we are left with lingering images of two sides of the guard. Again, when the poem ends, the two sides of the guard is brought, his cruelty and his culture. He daydreams like a thoughtful adolescent. He is like a cultured man. He dreams, he romanticizes, he thinks about the great culture of Germany. He thinks about great literature, he thinks about great poets and composers, musical composers. That shows his culture. But at the same time, the other side is also shown to us. The very threatening, inhuman, animal, beastly nature of this man. He plays with his vipers, he plays with his serpents, the snakes, like a madman. So he is like a madman who plays with the snake. Snake is a reference to anything that is evil, anything that is death, or deals with death, anything that, here it has a very negative connotation. So it's anything corrupt, it's anything evil, dangerous, disastrous. So he plays with dangerous things, he plays with disaster, he plays with death, and thereby he grants, or he is a death in itself. Okay, and the poem concludes with 3 separate phrases, and all your golden hair, Margaret, your ashen hair, Shulamit. So here the contrast between Margaret and Shulamit. The idealized, that is Margaret, which is considered as pure, and the erotic images are of Shulamit. So the idealized and the erotic images of the 2 fictional women, one is from the from German novel, and the other by Goethe, and the other is from the Bible, the Old Testament. And the idealized as well as the erotic image of these 2 fictional women stand uncomfortably against the real life violence that has just been described. So it's like, you know, culture and beauty and the role of art and literature is contrasted with the real life violence in Celan. So Celan wants us to think about the role of art and literature in the Holocaust as we finish reading this work of art. The contrast of gold and ash is like a contrast of the Nazi ideal with the reality it produced. So the gold and ash color, the contrast, the Nazi ideal. Of course, that was only these ideology was only praised and hailed by the Nazis. Nobody else hailed them. And how they considered it supreme, they considered it romantic, they considered it big, high thing. But how devastating it was, how destructive it was in reality is brought before us. So there is a contrast between art and literature and the poem and the Holocaust as such. Okay, so it is like bringing together the romantic, the cultured, on one side you have romance and you have culture and literature, and on the other side this very same Germany that produced this literature, culture and romance, the other side of Germany is portrayed through the Holocaust. Okay, so with that we come to the end of the poem. And so the poem basically restates its theme 4 times. Each time begins. So the poem basically restates its theme 4 times. It looks like an invocation, a prayer to black milk itself, and then a description of the man who lives in a house. The end of each stanza, it mixes together different phrases like your golden hair, Margaret, your ashen hair, Margaret. Celan does not use much punctuation also. If you look at the poem, you will find that he does not use much punctuation, and he does not write in complete sentences either. Instead, he he writes snippets of language, few small here and there, snippets of language that only have slight connection to one another. It looks very, it looks different. It's not like reading poems of Wordsworth or Keats. It's like certain words does not connect to one another. If you look at this one, we drink you at night, death comes as a master from Germany. We drink you, with a bullet of lead, he will hit in the mark, he will hit you. See that? So there are, it's like snippets of the language that only have a slight connection to one another. This gives the poem an almost schizophrenic feel, a feel of psychological trauma, a schizophrenic fee. Indeed, a fugue is in psychology, if you look at the word fugue in psychology, is a disoriented state that resembles schizophrenia, and the poem also doesn't have any regular rhythms or rhyme scheme. And this is translated from German, so if you look at the rhythm, it's only because of the English translation, and that too, just an approximate translation alone, and this is done by Christopher Middleton. And if you look at the form also, see, fugue is an interesting form to choose because it is closely associated with German high culture. So that's why I said, you see how with your golden hair Margaret, your ashen hair Shulamit. So with this, here Celan brings in two things together. He contrasts two together, and that is one, the high German culture, be it literature, be it music, be it culture, and the other one, the other side of Germany, the dark side of Germany, the Holocaust. Okay, so fugue, therefore, bringing in fugue form, the fugue form, it is Celan has rightly chosen it because it is closely associated with the German high culture. Germany and its German-speaking neighbor, Austria, that is, has one of the most impressive musical cultures in the world. Now, if you look at the great people, Wagner himself, Beethoven, Mozart, and all, you will find that they are all related with, or they are from Germany, or they are related to Germany and Austria. But Celan takes this classy and this cultured tradition, and he uses it in a poem about death and concentration camps, that is. So it's as if he wanted to implicate that the German musical tradition, or he wanted to bring in a German musical tradition in the Holocaust also. So he gives in that, the Holocaust, the death, that what the inhuman thing that they have done on the Jews. So he brings this high culture of Germany, this form into a Holocaust. It's very ironical also. And also the famous composer who used the fugue is J.S. Bach. I had pronounced it Bach earlier, I'm sorry, it is Bach. Okay, J.S. Bach, who lived in the 17th century and wrote The Art of the Fugue, a collection of incredibly complicated and beautiful fugues. By using this, it looks very ironic also. How normally we don't associate good, beautiful music with death. Death is always very sad, very grim, very painful. So here, on the other hand, the high culture, the high music, the great music is used here, and Celan does it purposefully to show the two culture, the two standards, or the two sides of Germany. The high culture of Germany, at the same time what they did to the Jews, the terrible crime that they did to humanity as such. All right. So he uses that purposefully. All right. Now, if you look at the symbols, now next is we'll just speak about the symbols and imagery and wordplay in Death Fugue. We have black milk first. Black milk is a symbol. So the first three lines we find the repetitive word black milk, and it forms the first musical theme of the poem's fugue. Okay, and that's what I said, the form, fugue is the form where the theme is repeated. Black milk is repeated, and the black milk is theme. Black milk stands for what? Black milk symbolizes the unwholesome and bitterly quality of camp experience, the terrifying life. So that's a symbol, and that theme therefore is repeated, and that is what is called fugue here. Fugue is a repetition of the theme. So in music, it is a repetition of the same note. Okay, you did listen to one of the video in which I had sent you how a fugue is composed, or how it looks like. Yes, so it is figurative, and it speaks about right from digging the graves to executions, is figurative of black milk. All this means black milk. So digging the graves, executions, death, torture, all these are the terrifying life in the camp. All these is a reference to, or all this means, or it stands for black milk, and black milk therefore becomes a symbol. So it's just like, you are forced to drink something. If you're forced to drink poison, which is bitter, which is terrifying, which is painful, and you have no other choice but to drink it. And the image also has specific connections with the Hebrew scriptures, because in the scripture the land of milk and honey is referred to as a kind of paradise. So I did explain this in the video in the beginning itself. So where the God had promised Israel that they will get, or they will be soon risen to the land of paradise, where there will be land of milk and honey. So this phrase is still in use today. Okay, so in Death Fugue, there is nothing sweet or paradise-like about the camp, and therefore it is very ironic. Instead of the land of milk and honey which God had promised the Jews, they are now drinking black milk. Black milk in the sense they are drinking, it is a reference to terrifying life. Just therefore it is very ironic. So it is also a symbol for toxic, death-haunted atmosphere of the camps. So every day you live a life fearing death. At the next moment, every second you are scared. You are even scared to sleep because you would be dead the next moment. The repetition of "we drink" symbolizes the endless and repetitive suffering of the prisoners. It also mimics the musical sound of a dance. Finally, it alludes to what as I told you, the land of milk and honey, which is a description of paradise from Hebrew texts. Okay, so here black milk is personified. Black milk, the black milk is personified as you. We drink you, we drink you. So it is personification. And it looks as though it is a central character in the poem. And also, look at the word "death" is a master from Germany. Right? It is the insertion of a phrase. A phrase is inserted along with the same line. There is an insertion of another phrase with another one. So, and that too at the refrain of the poem. Death comes as a master from Germany. He shouts and plays death music, comes as a master from Germany. Here also you have, "We drink you at nightfall, and morning we drink you and drink you. We drink you at noon. Death comes as a master from Germany." See, we drink you at night. So you have the refrain here. We drink you at noon, death comes as a master from Germany. We drink you at nightfall and morning, we drink you and drink you. We drink you is the refrain. We drink you, we drink you. Those two lines are the refrain. So that's repeated everywhere in the poem. We drink you, we drink you. That's a refrain in the poem. And therefore, in this section, when you look at this refrain, there is, it is juxtaposed together, it is brought together, it is inserted along with the refrain here, and it is an example of juxtaposition. Okay. Now, another symbol is the man. The man. So, one symbol is milk, black milk. Black milk stands for what? Black milk stands for the bitter quality of camp experience. It is also a symbol for toxic, death-haunted atmosphere of the camps. Then it is also a reference to what the to the scriptures in the old Hebrew scriptures in the Old Testament of the God's promise of God's promise of land of milk and honey to the Jews. But ironically, in the death fugue in this poem, it stands ironic because they are not drinking or they are not in the land of milk and honey. They are not drinking milk, the real milk and honey, but rather they are drinking black milk. Black is associated with anything that is poisonous, crude oil, that's difficult to drink, something that is distasteful, horrifying, and so on. So the reference here is very ironic, all right, and it is a personification. Literary device used here is personification. Next one is the man. Another symbol is the man. The man who lives in the house is is definitely the Nazi guard, because the reference he lives in a house. He's not living with the people in the concentration camps. Unlike the people living a terrible life in the concentration camp, he is living in a house. Okay. So this man is the Nazi guard because he is living in a house quite different from that of the people in the concentration camp, the Jews, that is, and he is most likely a member of the notorious organization, the Nazi organization that carried out many of the worst crimes of the Holocaust, the SS organization. The man is a representative of the Nazi movement as a whole and of particularly the dark strain of a particularly dark strain in German culture. His physical appearance is manifestation of the Nazi ideal, but his actions are nothing short of barbaric. He looks very cultured, but his actions show that of a beast. He is frequently shown ordering people around in the poem, committing terrible abuses. At the same time, he thinks his knowledge of books and music, and therefore he feels himself to be superior and cultured. So again, it is about the Nazi ideas as such, how the Nazis felt about themselves. They felt that they are very high, they are very cultured, and they are very superior. But that was this culture and this superior nature. It was something that existed 100 years before Hitler took over. It was that was a beautiful time, but now with Hitler coming into power, everything was distorted. This land became, the land that used to be one of great culture has now become the most terrifying and horrifying places of the whole world. So he thinks, he makes himself look superior and cultured, which he is not. So, and all his barbaric nature is portrayed. And in the god, and also if you look at the poem, the god is simply referred to as a man, nothing more than that. So you can take it as an understatement. And his vipers, the snakes, are a symbol of betrayal. They are a symbol of sin, loss of innocence, and also black magic. And then you have the stars also. Stars in the sky is also a symbol. Now the stars in the sky is a symbol of the god's romantic inclinations. Romanticism was a literary and artistic movement in Germany that remained very influential through the 20th century, and therefore this is a reference to romanticism of Germany, again, which is ironically looked upon. And the prisoners are called Jews, his Jews. The prisoners in the concentration camps are called his Jews. It looks as though he possessed them or he owned them. The guard therefore becomes a kind of a slave master. And his blue eyes represents the Aryan racial ideal that the Nazis valued. And the guard is also compared to death. He's the master from Germany. And therefore he is death incarnate. And also the comparison between the god and the death intensifies when we learn that death also has blue eyes. The death dreams, death comes as a master from Germany. Okay, so and then you also have the two images of God's actions, playing with the vipers and daydreaming. They symbolize two different and also the two different parts or the two different areas of German culture during the Nazi era. That is, one is playing with the vipers, that shows cruelty, and the other one is daydreaming or romanticizing, which is an attempt to be cultured and poetic, an attempt to make themselves look cultured and poetic in front of the world. So you have the two images of God's actions, that is playing with the vipers and daydreaming, portrayed, and you can symbolize two things there. One is that of playing with the vipers, is that shows the Nazis era's cruelty, and the other one, that is daydreaming and romanticizing and thinking about high literature, music, the form and all. It shows how they tried, their attempt to look or to showcase the world, their culture and their poetic and high German culture. So inside they were cruel people, they were vipers during the Nazi era, that is. Okay. Another symbol is graves, the graves. The poem expects that the reader is familiar with the enduring images of misery that have come out in the Holocaust. You have prisoners behind wire fences, guards with machine guns in watchtowers, especially mass graves and crematoriums, and most of the Jews who died in the camps were never buried also. Some of them were burned to make their remains more easily disposable. I told you, right? Large crematoriums, and they would turn to ash, and then they would be disposed easily. And then you have the images of ashes, you have the images of smoke, ashen hair, again ashen is a reference to the black hair, which is a reference to the Jews, again a reference to the cremated bodies, the ash turning to dust. Okay, so it has a lot of connotations, it has a lot of interpretations there. And so they were, some were the images, if you will find the images of ash, smoke, and graves in the air, that all allude to what these words, the images of ash, smoke and graves in the air, they allude to this practice of what? Practice of cremating the bodies, burning the bodies. See, not just to easily dispose them, but also to cover from the world what was going on, to not let out evidences. That is also one thing. All right. So others, what about others? Others were dumped in mass graves, and the prisoners were often forced to dig their own graves before they were killed. So, and this is also recorded in the poem, because this was something that Celan saw for himself. Finally, throughout the poem, an ironic voice seems to lure and tempt the prisoners to death. It's like, death music, keeping on tempting them, keeping on luring them. Come, fall in love with death. Come to my hands so that you can be rid of all pain, promising them freedom from this horrifying, terrifying, cramped situation or conditions in the concentration camps. They will be free forever. Okay, so there is also this ironic voice there in the poem. Okay, so that's with some of the symbols. Then of course the historical references, it's all about the Nazis, that I have already told you. So with that we end the poem, and we will start the next chapter in the next video, and we will take up all these questions towards the end of the our portion. Okay, once we are done with spectrum, we will come back to from where I had started, that is noumena foreign, and we shall discuss the question answers once we are done with the portions. So till then, thank you and keep safe.